Enfermé triomphant, gris, blanc en blanc, tirelire en blanc. Le bourgeois tambour battant marche à la Bastille, marche à la Bastille, et partout l'ardeur brille. Les citoyens de tout rang, gris, blanc en blanc, tirelire en blanc, suivant les drapeaux flottants, vont d'un air intrépide, vont d'un air intrépide, rien ne les intimide. De tous côtés on entend gris, blanc en blanc, tirelire en blanc, le bruit de l'air intonant contre la capitale, aux Bastilles fatales. Tu vas dans quelques instants, gris, blanc en blanc, tirelire en blanc, céder aux bras triomphants de nos bras assiégeants. Marche à la Bastille, et partout l'ardeur brille, d'un enfermé triomphant, gris, blanc en blanc, tirelire en blanc, le bourgeois tambour battant marche à la Bastille.
Place de la Bastille. Composed in 1790, the song glorifies the events surrounding July 14th, 1789, and recounts the episode that led to the taking of the Bastille. Rather than surrender, the Bastille's governor, de Launay, chose to resist. The text is unusual in that the taking of the Bastille is attributed to the bourgeoisie and not to the people in general. This part might be a repeat, this could be an update, but Elise de la Serre, the only daughter of Francois and Julie de la Serre, Elise grew up in a modestly wealthy but incredibly privileged environment as a member of the aristocracy in the waning days of the Ancien regime. She had access to the finest tutors, medicine, and food available. After her mother's death in 1778, Elise spent a great deal of time traveling, including several years of study in Paris. Seems likely she was getting a healthy dose of Templar training / indoctrination during this time. Must be nice to get your training along the French Riviera. I had to make do with a leaky shed in Wolverhampton. After her father's death, she seems to vanish from documented history, likely as a result of revolutionary efforts to purge records of the nobility, or the Templars trying to cover up one of their regime changes. The Bastille. The Bastille was one of many construction projects undertaken by Charles V and was intended to protect the Porte Saint-Antoine Gate and its adjoining St. Paul Palace. As the centuries wore on and the fortress became less useful as fortification, it was used more and more often as a prison, finally being completely dedicated to that purpose under the reign of Louis XIII. The prisoners held there, who rarely numbered more than 40 each year, were most commonly political prisoners. I apologize if I've read some of these more than once. They don't give me a clear, this is where the update starts, and I also had to restart some of these, so I'm not sure which I read and which I didn't. By 1789, the Bastille was deemed useless and was costly to maintain, with 250 soldiers for a mere 9 prisoners. I had an idea for how to bring the costs down. Fire 247 soldiers. Their system is like having a plane with 1 seat but hundreds of captains. Hang on, that sounds brilliant. This was at a time when Paris was packed with prisons of all shapes and sizes. Nonetheless, it it was seen as a symbol of the oppression of the ancien regime, and when the French Revolution broke out, it was one of the first buildings to be looted and destroyed. The revolutionaries' quarry became quite literally that, as the mob demolished the building and put its stones to better use. Some of the stones were used to consolidate the Pont de la Concorde. Others were taken as individual or collective relics. Many were carved into tiny models of the entire fortress and sold as souvenirs. I do believe I read that one before, so I apologize. Again, if I didn't say it before, it would be pretty cool to have one of those little souvenirs carved out of the actual brick of the building itself. Newspaper stands and printing presses. One of the most spectacular aspects of commerce during the Revolutionary period was the boom in printing, driven by the explosion in the number of publications. Before 1789, censorship tightly controlled the production of literary works, including periodicals. With the Revolution, however, the printing industry blossomed. In June 1789, only 5 newspapers were on sale. By December of the same year, the figure had risen to 130. Among the most important papers of the Revolution were Camille Desmoulins, Le Voul Cordelier, Jacques Brissots, Girondist, Le Patriote, Français, Jacques René Herberts, Le Pere, Duchesne, and Jean-Paul Marat's El Ami du Peuple. These papers reached a huge number of Parisians, even those who were unfamiliar with reading, since it was not uncommon to find individuals who read articles aloud in the middle of the street to persuade others. Storming of the Bastille. With the price of bread at an all-time high in July of 1789, Paris was on the brink of revolt. Believe me, at that stage, it had been revolting for some time. When word reached the city that Louis XVI had dismissed his finance minister, it was taken as a sign of an impending coup attempt by conservative factions within the government seeking to arm themselves against the coup. A procession of radicals gathered and headed for the left bank, where they seized some 40,000 muskets from the armory at the Hôtel des Invalides. However, there was no powder or shot to be had, and so the revolutionaries made for the Bastille. At the time, there were over 30,000 pounds of powder and shot stored within the prison. The governor, Bernard René de Launay, had less than 100 men, mainly veteran soldiers and Swiss guards, to hold the prison against perhaps 1,000 insurgents. Delaunay refused to surrender, and his forces were quickly overwhelmed. The powder was seized, and the prisoners, all 7 remaining in the Bastille, were freed when told of the attack by Duke of Le Rochefoucauld. Louis XVI was reported to ask, "Is it a revolt?" The Duke replied, "No, sire. It is a revolution. You say tomato, I say tomato. Actually, that one doesn't work so well written down." To anyone who speaks French, very sorry for butchering any of the names or words. Hospice des Infants Trauve. The meticulous chronicler Sebastian Mercier left evidence of the tens of thousands of children abandoned in Paris. Mercier spoke of these exposed children who were often left on the steps of churches. The most famous among them was the philosopher D'Alembert, or in the towers of convents. The Hospital de la Charité, or Charity Hospital, was supposed to accommodate them with the income from certain fines, but new facilities were needed with the financial support of Chancellor de Alliger. A city square and a market bear his name. Queen Maria Theresa founded this hospice in 1670, situated on what is now the square Traussau. A subsidiary establishment would be built on the forecourt of Notre Dame. Conciergerie. This palace was the seat of the King of France from the 10th century to the middle of the 14th, when Charles V abandoned it for the Louvre. By the early 15th century, it was primarily used as a prison, though the name conciergerie, from concierge, keeper of the royal palace, stuck. By the time of the Revolution, the conciergerie was the main prison in Paris. For many, it was the last stop before execution, which earned it the nickname Antechamber of the Guillotine. The conciergerie was also called the most lucrative furnished lodging in Paris. Prisoners were allowed to rent a bed for 27 livres a month, but since many were executed after only a few days, jailers could rent out the same bed sometimes 10 times a month. Since the revolution has started, I felt like it was necessary to walk around the streets of Paris, and we can kind of see the people walking around. There's, well, murders in the streets. I don't know if that was necessarily the truth all the time. Maybe it was. But I felt like it was nice to showcase what the developers did here to show what they were trying to convey. Lots of people. There was this kind of just fights breaking out all over the place. People protesting at the gates of government establishments, things like that. Of course, it's easy for us to get away, sort of, since we can blend with the crowd. What was that? Le Patriote, 1789. Latude escapes again. Years ago, Le Patriote, 1789. Latude escapes again. Years ago, Jean-Henri Latude made quite a career of his exploits, escaping from the prison of Vincennes, then the Bastille, then Vincennes again. This time, however, he escaped from a crowd of well-wishers trying to shake his hand. The crowd pressed a bit closely for the escape artist, and he was compelled to rush away. Jacques is back. Following the hullabaloo we all rightfully raised on his behalf, The king has eased off and reappointed Necker to oversee the country's finances. Hear, hear for King Louis. Mille Lenormand, seer of the old city, the Ile de la Cité, has its own sibyl. Mille Lenormand is able to see one's future using her unique tarot cards designed by the woman herself. Treat yourself to a peek into what soon to be. The good Marquis Marc de Lafayette has been confirmed as Commander-in-Chief of the new National Guard, with him in charge. Order is no doubt to be swiftly restored. The troubles of the past weeks swept under the damask silks. Republicanism, violence. Surely, Monsieur Desmoulins paints a rather bellicose picture. Can we not turn to reason and dialogue rather than blows? With all the advances made in this age, enlightenment, brutality would seem rather out of place.
I suppose a simple address would be too mundane.
Et toi, tu verras que le peuple donnera la révolution sera le triomphe au pays. Elle assurera le bien-être du plus grand nombre.
Saint Chapel. The Saint Chapel, or Holy Chapel, was built by Louis the IX, later canonized as Saint Louis, to house Christ's crown of thorns, which he had just purchased from Baldwin II of Constantinople. Louis purchased the crown of thorns. That means Christ didn't travel into the future to buy a crown of thorns from Baldwin II of Constantinople. He had already access to thorns in biblical times. He didn't need to go all the way to Constantinople to find some bloke called Baldwin II. Also, Baldwin II. So, Baldwin I suffered through life with that god-awful name, then decided to give it to his son as well? Some people. The edifice is a unique example of seemingly invisible stonework, since its windows take up all the space between the structural supports. Perhaps more extraordinary is that it was built in just 2 years, between 1246 and 1248. Believe me, I'm very familiar with European builders. Nothing else in their history has ever been built in just 2 years. not even a small wall or miniature water feature. It is set on 2 levels. The lower level was for Parisans and the people of the court. The upper level was for the king and his family. On important occasions, the king presented the crown taken from the reliquary, to which he alone had the key to the kneeling congregation. It came close to being demolished during the Revolution, but would eventually be used as a flower store, a club room for the section de la Cité, and finally a store for archiving old papers, which effectively saved it since it served the people. It bore a sign proclaiming national property for sale until 1837. All the sacred vessels and precious books had long since disappeared.
What's the light supposed to illuminate? If you can pluck your head from your own arse, come find us. If you can pluck your head from your own arse, come find us. What am I supposed to do with this medallion?
Took you long enough, piss pot.
What is this place?
The Sanctuary. A place we can train and prepare, away from the eyes of our enemies.
Didn't we just escape from a dungeon?
It's not a dungeon. It's a nerve center. From these tunnels, we can get anywhere in the city, all without being seen. We have eyes everywhere.
Really? Seems visibility would be a problem. Wouldn't you prefer something with a view?
This place has served us well for 600 years, piss pot.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you standing in the dark waiting for me?
Not long. Guillaume spotted you from the bell tower.
Well, it was quite the entrance.
Are you mocking me?
No, no. God's truth. Very theatrical.
Shut up. We're here.
The candidate will approach. So, the son of Charles Dorion returns to us. Belek thought you wouldn't come. What changed your mind?
I'm tired of running from my failures. Monsieur de la Serre, my father. I want to make it right.
The death of Grand Master de la Serre weighs on you. Why? Did you wield the blade yourself?
Does it matter? The blame still lies with me.
إن ذنوبه تكل كيلي. هل أنت متأكد من؟
أنا كذلك. إنه قادر على مواجهة المحاكمة. سيكون جيدا.
Very well. Out of the dark you come into the light. From the light you will return to the dark. Are you prepared to travel the Eagle's path?
If that's a fancy way of asking, do I want your help? Yes.
Then drink.
What's happening?
Hello?
Can't I go with you, Father?
Courage, my boy. You wait just here. I will return when this hand reaches the top, and there is to be no mischief.
Father!
Where is that boy? I'm certain I told him 6 o'clock. We should be well away by now.
Father, it's me! I'm here!
I didn't know.
Neither did my father. Go! I'll distract them! Go! I'll distract them! Quite a commotion.
What can I say? You were always a bad influence.
Oh, you were a worse one.
Truly, I am blessed to have such a loyal...
Watch your end for little nurse. Come find us. You make a fine fit.
These are the words spoken by our ancestors, the words that lay at the heart of our creed.
Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent.
Hide in plain sight.
Never compromise the Brotherhood.
Let these tenets be branded upon your mind. Follow them and be uplifted. Break them at your peril. Rise, assassin. Arno Dorian is dead. He has been culled from this world, his sins and failures turned to dust. Tonight he is reborn, a novice of the Assassin Brotherhood.
Well, that ends this episode. The graphics, I had to turn them down because the game kept on crashing and freezing my system. I have a pretty good brand new computer. The amount of hoops you have to jump through to get this game to work is ridiculous. I got it to work the first time and the graphics were fine. Now I turned on the graphics so that it wouldn't work so hard, and I mean, it looks like garbage. A lot of the older Ubisoft games, and I mean, you know, older, they just don't work right. They're not You know, they were made for when they were made, and that was it. They were like, nobody's ever going to play this game after, you know, whatever year it was made, I think is what their thing was. They should probably work on that. Anyways, enough about that gripe. This seems kind of sudden, in my opinion. The whole thing about him being inducted into the Assassins. And I always have an issue with their hideouts. I get it. You know, it's cool. It's like theatrical or whatever, I guess, to have this guy jump through a bunch of hoops for a building that would never have something like this underneath it. But I digress. Back to him being suddenly inducted here. They don't really know him. There was no test. There was no nothing. They just take it up on this guy's word to induct him into the Assassins. And, you know, if that's enough for them, maybe they're desperate. Maybe they need people. I don't know. I really don't. But I guess we'll see where this leads. Yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed Sequence 2 Memory 2. And yeah, with that, I will say bye for now. I'll try and fix the graphics. Stuff like that. Maybe. Hopefully. But I won't hold your breath. Again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.